So these next chapters are packed with just goodies. I can read the whole chapter. It's that good. And the following chapter after this one is packed with awesomeness too. So I'm just going to read a few passages here, not very much. It's so good with symbolism and the cryptid messages it's got and all that. So here we go. In other podcasts or whatever, I've covered these chapters extensively. So I'll try to cover parts of it that I haven't done already. So here we go. Dark cumulus clouds were drawing their cloak over the mountains. She took her mysterious letter and went to hide in the loom shed. On the loom was an unfinished strip of cloth for a man's kimono, part of the garment which, since the year before, she'd been spending every spare moment spinning silk yarn for it. It was for Marahachi, and she was excited by the prospect of sewing all the pieces together into a full kimono. She had woven every strand meticulously, as if the weaving itself were drawing him closer to her. She wanted the garment to last forever. Seating herself before the loom, she gazed intensely at the letter. Whoever had sent it, she whispered to herself. Sure, the letter must have been meant for someone else. She read the address over and over, searching for a flaw. The letter had obviously made a long journey to reach her. The torn and crumpled wrap was smudged all over with fingerprints and raindrops. She broke the seal, whereupon not one but two letters fell into her lap. The first was an unfamiliar woman's hand, and somewhat older woman, she quickly guessed. I am writing merely to confirm what is written on the other letter, and will therefore not go into details. I am marrying Marahachi and adopting him into my family. However, he still seems concerned about you. I think it would be a mistake to let matters stand as they are. Marahachi is therefore sending you an explanation, the truth of which I hereby witness. Please forget Marahachi. Respectfully, Oku. The other letter was in Marahachi's scrawl, and explained in tiresome length all the reasons why it was impossible for him to return home. The gist of it, of course, was that Otsu should forget about her betrothal to him and find another husband. Marahachi added that since it was difficult for him to write directly to his mother of these matters, he would appreciate her help. If Otsu had happened to see the old woman, she was to tell her Marahachi was alive and well and living in another province. Otsu felt the marrow of her spine turn to ice. She sat stricken, too shocked to cry or even blink. The nails of the fingers holding the letter turned the same color as the skin of the dead man she had seen less than an hour before. The hours passed. So there you have it. Little by little, the truth is making its way. It's making its way back to everybody that should know the truth. However, just like today, lies spread fast, and the truth is slow to come out. All the lies that they're saying about Musashi have spread like wildfire. I mean, they've got an army up against him, thinking that he's done all these bad things, and he's just being accused left and right, and he's evil, he's a demon, he's killed all this, and he's betrayed his family and all this and that. But slowly these truths, they come, right? They slowly come. So Otsu goes back to the temple, right? She's got to go back, but she doesn't want to. That's her job mainly, is to work at the temple. She's, again, an orphan. She has nothing. She was on the verge of getting married and starting her family. Now she's alone again. It's terrible. When Otsu finally appeared at the priest's quarters, the captain, already slouching drunkenly, immediately perked up, straightened his cap, which had been listing noticeably. He became quite jovial and called for refill after refill. Soon his face glowed scarlet, and the corners of his bulging eyes began to sag. He was not enjoying himself to the fullest, however, and the reason was a singular, unwanted presence in the room. On the other side of the lamp sat Takuan, bent over like a blind beggar, absorbed in reading the book open on his knees. Mistaking the monk for an acolyte, the captain pointed at him, bellowing, "Hey, you there." Takuan continued reading until Otsu gave him a nudge. He raised his eyes absently, and looking all around, he said, "You mean me?" The captain spoke roughly. "Yes, you. I have no business with you. Leave. Oh, I don't mind staying, Takuan replied innocently. Oh, you don't, do you? No, not at all, Takuan said, returning to his book. Well, I mind, the captain blustered. It spoils the taste of good sake to have someone around reading. Oh, I'm sorry, responded Takuan with mock solicitude. How rude of me. I'll just close the book. The very sight annoys me. All right then. I'll have Otsu put it away. Not the book. You idiot. I'm talking about you. You spoil the setting. Takuan's expression became grave. Now that's a problem, isn't it? It's not as though I were the sacred Wukong and could change myself into a puff of smoke or become an insect and perch on your tray. The captain's red neck swelled. His eyes bulged. He looked like a blowfish. Get out, you fool. Out of my sight. Very well, said Takuan quietly. Bowing, taking Otsu's hand, he addressed her. The guest says he prefers to be alone. To love solitude is the mark of a sage. We mustn't bother him further. Come. Why, you. Is something wrong? Who said anything about taking Otsu with you? You ugly moron. Takuan folded his arms. I've observed over the years that not many priests or monks are particularly handsome. Not many samurai either, for that matter. Take you, for example. The captain's eyes nearly leapt from his sockets. What? Have you considered your mustache? I mean, have you ever really taken the time to look at it? To evaluate it objectively? You crazy bastard, shouted the captain as he reached for his sword, which was leaning against the wall. Watch yourself. As he got to his feet, Takuan, keeping one eye on him, asked placidly, how do I go about watching myself? The captain, who was by now screaming, had his sheathed sword in hand. I've taken all I can take. Now you're going to get what's coming to you. Takuan burst out laughing. Does that mean you plan to cut off my head? If so, forget it. It would be a terrible bore. A bore? I can't think of anything more boring than cutting off a monk's head. It would just fall to the floor and lie there, laughing up at you. Not a very grand accomplishment. And what good could it possibly do you? Well, growled the captain, let's just say I'd have the satisfaction of shutting you up. It'd be pretty hard for you to keep up your insolent chatter. Filled with courage, such people derive from having a weapon in hand. He laughed a mean belly laugh and moved forward threateningly. But Captain, Takuan's offhand manner had so enraged him that the hand in which he held the scabbard was shaken violently. Otsu slipped between the two men in an effort to protect Takuan. What are you saying, Takuan? She said, hoping to lighten the mood and to slow the action. People don't talk like that to warriors. Now, just say you're sorry, she entreated. Come on, apologize to the captain. Takuan, however, was anything but finished. Get out of the way, Otsu. I'm alright. Do you really think I'd let myself be beheaded by a dolt like this? Who thought commanding scores of able-armed men has wasted 20 days trying to locate one exhausted, half-starved fugitive? If he hasn't enough sense to find Takuzo, it would indeed be amazing if he could outwit me. Don't move, commanded the captain. His bloated face turned purple as he moved to draw his sword. Stand aside, Otsu. I'm going to cut this big-mouth acolyte in two. Otsu fell at the captain's feet and pleaded. You have every reason to be angry, but please be patient. He's not quite right in the head. He talks to everybody this way. He doesn't mean anything by it, really. Tears began gushing from her eyes. What are you saying, Otsu? Objected Takuan. There's nothing wrong with my mind, and I'm not joking. I'm only telling the truth, which no one seems to like to hear. He's a dolt, so I called him a dolt. You want me to lie? You'd better not say that again, thundered the samurai. I'll say it as often as I wish. By the way, I don't suppose it makes any difference to you soldiers how much time you squander looking for Takuzo, but it's a terrible burden on the farmers. Do you realize what you're doing to them? They won't be able to eat soon if you keep this up. It probably hasn't even occurred to you that they have to neglect their field work completely to go out on your disorganized wild goose chases, and with no wages, I might add. It's a disgrace. Hold your tongue, traitor. That's outright slander against the Tokugawa government. It isn't the Tokugawa government I'm criticizing. It's bureaucratic officials like you who stand between the daimyo and the common people, and who might as well be stealing their pay for all they do to earn it. For one thing, exactly why are you lounging around here tonight? What gives you the right to relax in your nice, comfortable kimono, all smug and warm, take leisurely baths, and have your bedtime sake poured for you by a pretty young girl? You call that serving your lord? The captain was speechless. Is it not the duty of the samurai to serve his lord faithfully and tirelessly? Isn't it your job to exercise benevolence towards the people who slave on the daimyo's behalf? Look at yourself. You just close your eyes to the fact that you're keeping the farmers from the work which gives them daily sustenance. You don't even have any consideration for your own men. You're supposed to be on an official mission. So what do? Every chance you get, you literally stuff yourself with other people's hard-earned food and drink, and you use your position to get the most comfortable quarters available. I should say you're an example of corruption, cloaking yourself with the authority of your superior to do nothing more than dissipate the energies of the common people for your own selfish ends. The captain was by now too stunned to close his gaping mouth. Takuan pressed on. Now just try cutting my head off and sending it to Lord Akira Terumasu. That, I can tell you, would surprise him. He'd probably say, "Why, Takuan, has your head come to visit me today? Where in the world is the rest of you?" No doubt you'd be interested to learn that Lord Terumasu and I used to partake of the tea ceremony together, Mayo Shinji. We've also had several long, pleasant chats at the Daitokuji in Kyoto. Scraggly beards, virulence drained from him in an instant. His drunkenness had worn off a bit too, though he still appeared incapable of judging for himself whether Takuan was telling the truth or not. He seemed paralyzed, not knowing how to react. "First, you'd better sit down," said the monk. "If you think I'm lying, I'll be happy to go with you to the castle and appear before the Lord himself. As a gift, I could take him some of the delicious buckwheat flour they make here. He's particularly fond of it. However, there's nothing more tedious, nothing I like less than calling on a daimyo. Moreover, if the subject of your activities in Miyamoto should happen to come up while we were chatting over tea, I couldn't very well lie. It would probably end up with your having to commit suicide for the incompetence. I told you from the beginning to stop threatening me, but you warriors are all the same. You never think about the consequences. And that's your greatest failing. Now put your sword down and I'll tell you something else." Deflated, the captain complied. "Of course, you are familiar with the great General Sun Tzu's Art of War. You know, the classic Chinese work on the military strategy. I assume any warrior in your position would be intimately acquainted with such an important book. Anyway, the reason I mention it is that I'd like to give you a lesson illustrating one of the book's main principles. I'd like to show you how to capture Takuzo without losing any more of your men or causing the villagers any more trouble than you have already. Now, this has to do with your official work, so you really should listen carefully." He turned to the girl. "Otsu, pour the captain another cup of sake, will you?" The captain was a man in his 40s, 10 years or so older than Takuan, but it was clear from their faces at this moment that strength of character is not a matter of age. Takuan's tongue lashing had humbled the older man and his bluster had evaporated. Meekly he said, "No, I don't want any more sake. I hope you'll forgive me. I had no idea you were a friend of Lord Terumasu. I'm afraid I've been very rude." He was abject to the point of being comical, but Takuan refrained from rubbing it in. "Let's just forget all that. What I want to discuss is how to capture Takuzo. That is what you have to do to carry out your orders and maintain your honor as a samurai, isn't it?" "Yes, of course. I also know you don't care how long it takes to catch the man. After all, the longer it takes, the longer you can stay out at the temple, eating, drinking, and oogling Otsu. Yeah, so there it is. I think the overriding theme of that is the art of war, right? You don't need very much muscle, very much brute force. You don't need all that if you know very good strategies, very good, if you know how to read, if you can study, and if you can apply everything that you've learned from books, from nature, from the universe. Take it all in, not just the physical. I think the big theme that's coming up again and again is, the last chapter, the circles, right? The eternal and the ephemeral, the flower. The flower fades, the flower blooms and goes away. The circle of life, the spirituality never goes away. This Takuan guy's got, he's a real person. I believe in history. He's a real person. He's trying to give him sage advice, although he does the same with Musashi. He does the same. Doesn't like him. Doesn't like the fact they're all physical men. These men are just physical. The world is composed of more than the physical, and you're better off learning the eternal side.